This Dame NFL MLB playoff preview edition of Sports Addict Live, brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. With over 40 years experience, First Round Collectibles offers the widest variety of quality Beckett graded sports cards anywhere. Representing 10 major sports, First Round has all your favorite players from all your favorite teams at great prices. We are proud of our knowledgeable staff and top-rated customer service, and our reviews vouch for our integrity. Visit us today at firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, can't relax. Original, I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they never.
Hey, welcome, Sports Addict Live. Mark Sauter with you on a Monday night, Tuesday morning, or whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for joining me. Tom Brown back again in the house. We made it through yet another awful primetime football game. How you doing, man?
I'm doing way better than the Giants.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah. So that was the Giants' second home game of the season. We remember the 40-0 meeting opening weekend. They're now cumulative 64-3 losers at home this season. Love to be
Not
a Giants
the best.
fan. Seems like a lot of fun.
Not the best. I need you to, we're adults here and we need fellow men in our lives to hold us accountable and to help us be our best versions of ourselves. You know what I mean? I need you to hold me accountable. And whenever there's a football game where the Giants are involved, I need you to hold me accountable that I will never, ever, ever bet the over on any Giants props ever again this season. Unless 200 yards. 200 yards.
What if the over is how many times will Daniel Jones get sacked?
Well, to be honest, I should be betting the over interceptions. Like usually that's at like
pick 0.5 over under 0.5.
And to be honest with you, like the pick six, like that was tough. But a lot of these, like they aren't even totally his fault. Like
that one
was for sure. But this pocket is just like
10. I think it was 10 sacks. 10 sacks tonight, I think.
It was 10 sacks when I turned it off. 5 minutes left. Clearly the over wasn't hitting in any of my props. It was one of those games, man. Like you just figured like this, like the Seahawks usually outscore their problems. Typically, maybe not every game, but historically speaking, they outscore their problems. And I figured they would. I picked Seahawks -2 tonight. I think it was at -1.5 a couple days ago. I had no problem with that. But you figure 200 yards, like there's no
2023
Saquon, but anyway, so I just need you to do that for me as a brother. I can't bet Giants overs ever again in all my life.
I got you.
Speaking of football, man, crazy day yesterday. I'll be speaking about football later on in the week, but for now, what kind of caught your eye? Week 4 in the books.
We talk a lot about the NFC, and the Cowboys look fine. That was a blip. Bill Belichick wore his formal hoodie to go play at Jerry Jones's palace. He decided to dress like he works at the gas station rather than he just hangs out there all day. I thought that was respectful. And then the Cowboys turned him into a meme. The Eagles snuck another one out. That was almost I was looking forward to watching that in overtime. I was looking forward to talking about it as just another. The NFC East is insane.
As an average football fan, that was a fun game.
Yeah,
If you're not
it's
a
just
fan of one of those two
yeah.
teams.
Well, it was a fun game. But I mean, the Philly, they don't look good, and they just keep chalking up W's. So everybody should be on notice. I think at this point, like they're going to sort out some of that stuff,
Yeah.
and then watch out because they're 4-0. And then the Niners still doing Niner stuff. I think
Unreal.
Ayuk was out with injury, and they still racked up a bunch. But I do want to do one quick thing, if you'll indulge me for just a second here.
Sure.
I want to do an Atlanta Falcons vibe check.
Oh
A
boy.
good friend of mine is a huge Atlanta Falcons fan. Pretty much had to be talked out of painting his house red and black. So I texted him that they were playing, obviously, the Jags in London yesterday morning, fourth quarter.
Yep.
I was watching Desmond Ridder do stuff, and I was thinking, what? That doesn't look like a quarterback. So I figured I'll text Casper. I said, so what's wrong with Ridder? He replied, well, he's young and he sucks. Oh, I mean, I thought he was going to make a leap this year. At least you got Bijan. He says, yeah, I don't know. I think we need a quarterback more. And then he stopped talking to me. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That was,
so what's your overall feeling on the vibe check? Probably not great, right?
Well, if Casper's that despondent about it and just says that Ridder sucks, yeah, it's not great. 28-3 was really the peak of that franchise, and it's all been downhill since.
It's then. Actually wild. And as far as like roster and coaching staff go, like it's been completely turned over. Yeah. As far as I know, I don't think there's any players left from that.
I don't think so.
But just
yeah,
it lingers.
So after the way last season ended, Ridder looked pretty competent to at the end of the year. They obviously have a great skill position core. Their defense really came on last year. At the end of the year, Arthur Smith, architect of a really good running game. They're one of the best running offenses in the league last year. I had them winning the NFC South this year.
A lot of people did. Yeah, a lot of people did.
I was wrong. So that's where we're at with that. I'll just throw that bet out the window. Yeah, the NFC South is kind of a mess. The Panthers are a joke. The Saints can't move the ball. They brought in Derek Carr, and they seem to be completely confused about who he is. He's a quick game short and mid range thrower. They've got him throwing deep, and they're not moving. I don't know what they're doing.
No,
aside from losing. And then meanwhile, you've got Baker Mayfield. Looks like 2020 Baker Mayfield in Cleveland when they won a playoff game. I think not only are they obviously the favorites in that division, but right now they got to be kind of the feel-good story in the NFL this year. If you like Baker at all, and I don't know how you can't cheer for Baker a little bit.
Yeah, I think
he's out there doing his thing.
Yeah, I think most people root for Baker for the most part, right?
It's mean not to.
Yeah, like if it was like Johnny Manziel or something, then it would be different, right? But
forget that.
With Baker, it's like nobody wants to see him fail.
No, right? I mean, he fails.
I'm sure there are people
3 to 5 times a game, and it's hilarious, right? But he gets back up, and he goes back at it again because Baker doesn't care. Baker, unlike glory boy Aaron Rodgers, he tears Achilles. He's out there playing in a walking boot. Might even make him a better decision maker.
Yeah,
I don't know. They should try that. Try him in a walking boot 1 week.
Yeah, but, I'm not a big Rodgers sympathizer or anything, but he does got like 15 years on him. There's a little bit.
I mean, I'm joking, but
I know.
Yeah. With Baker, the numbers never tell the story. When he's playing good football, and he's playing really good football. I don't know what we did in the prairies to deserve this, but we've had to watch every Tampa game on national TV in our region this year. So I've seen every Baker snap, and
he really competes. There's no joke. He competes.
It's just sometimes it's just awful, and you love the guy, right? The only stat really that ever tells the story with Baker is interceptions. If it's more than one per game, that's the story. If it's
Right.
one or less per game, then that's a competitive quarterback, and you can win a lot of games with him. And he's been one or under all year, so
Yeah.
I'm happy about that. Just as a Baker stand, and that's where I'm at with that. The AFC, nothing happened yesterday that changed my opinion about anything at all.
No. So quickly, just to go back on your Tampa point, I think like a lot of people, including myself, now I didn't have the stones to bet any like future market on them, but a lot of people, including myself, just figured like, Brady's gone, this team's done, whatever. And then you watch them play week 1 and you're like, oh yeah, like they still have like a pretty good core of that championship defense. And they still have Evans and they have Godwin. And this white kid looks, I don't know, phenomenal is a bit strong, but he looks really good.
Well, and if you want to go a little further, yeah, Wirfs is still on the offensive line. If you want to go a little further, right? Tom Brady wasn't great last year. And not only that, Tom Brady is a cranky middle-aged man. And I don't think that was any fun for anybody. And when things didn't go well, it just got worse, spiraled
He
worse.
was having some
Baker looks like a
breakdowns
fun guy
last
to
year.
play with.
Yeah, he
Baker's like,
does.
don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure. Go back and look at it like the Zapruder tape. I think I saw Mike Evans smile yesterday, which would be the first time since, I don't know, 2019
For a while.
that's
for a
happened.
while.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like what's happening in Tampa there. I think they'll probably go 10-7 and lose in the wild card round again, but it'll be more fun. People like it,
If they make it to the playoffs, though, that's a win. Like if they make it back there, post Tom Brady. And then to your point about the AFC, tell me what you think about this real quick. I have made a observation, and minus say, well, not even say, like minus the Jags, they were the runaway favorites. Everybody picked them to win. You had the odd person picking the Titans, but for the most part, the Jags are winning the division. It's a runaway deal, whatever. Minus the Jags, that division is actually a lot of fun. Like I'm actually really enjoying watching the Texans. I have them marked down every week to watch. And the Colts are one of those teams where you like I trust
love this Richardson kid. Yeah.
Oh, dude, 100%. But like for me anyway, watching, I feel like Stroud, like legit, they could win every game. Obviously, depending who they're playing. But with Stroud, I'm like, he could actually win every game. Like, or at least there is a chance. With
Stroud's,
Richardson and what they have with the Colts, they might not win like too many games, but he's a really fun kid to watch. Like this division's a lot more relevant on my like
I
TV
agree.
switching
And
than I thought they'd be.
people were counting Arizona traded the pick to the Texans, right? People were counting chickens a little too early. They're thinking, oh, well, Houston's still going to be terrible, going to be terrible. Arizona might have 2 top 5 picks. Meanwhile, Arizona looks competitive, and Houston looks competitive. They might not have any top 10 picks, but
yeah,
I mean, they will. But Houston's going to be in a lot of games. CJ Stroud is way better than I think any. I don't think anybody expected him to be this good. This is better than unanimous first overall pick quarterbacks look in their first 4 weeks. So good for them, for sure.
Well, because don't get me, because if Bryce Young went first, and mind you, the Panthers have like Thielen, who was a terrific player, back in his day. Yes. And as a Philly, guy, I love me some Miles Sanders, but he doesn't really have the cream of the crop to
No,
incorporate in his offense.
but neither does Stroud.
100%. Yeah,
There's
Schultz maybe.
Schultz, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Although I traded him off my fantasy team
Good. Yeah,
pretty
he's I
quickly.
don't
Yeah.
watch too much Cowboys the last few years to have any trust in Dalton Schultz. But,
So I was trying to, yeah, I'll save it for another day. But yeah, is there anything else on the NFL that you got?
the Chargers also very nearly snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Really questionable late game play calling by their vaunted offensive coordinator. Very nearly cost them the game. I mean, playing against Josh McDaniels' team, it's a real.
He can't help himself,
But
man.
no,
He can't
not
help
them can't.
himself.
Oh
He
man,
can't.
I watched that game and as exciting as Eagles, whatever Washington's are now, was Philly and Washington. As exciting as that game was, is exactly the opposite of that dumpster fire of a game between Vegas and the Chargers. Uh, yeah, it was fun though watching Kelly Moore almost ruin everything, but
It's yeah.
but Josh McDaniels was like, no, 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 hold my beer.
Yeah.
I've got some questionable decisions that I'm going to make as well. So it was a
I
awful
just
football.
yeah,
They should
Brandon
send that one.
Staley.
That's the one they should have sent to London because the Jags don't deserve that treatment anymore.
Well, it's the London Jags, man. Like they're
Yeah,
back this week. I think they face the Bills there on Sunday.
they should just stay there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to see their
It's
I want to see their
coming.
mascot
Someone's
get
staying
like a
there.
Union Jack speedo. By now, it's surprisingly he hasn't busted that out at some point yet.
Yeah. So
The only mascot in all of pro sports with meth sores. It's I'm surprised he's allowed to travel with the team. I don't know. Maybe he's detained at London Gatwick Airport or whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
But no, that's about all I got.
So yeah, so quickly, so there were three things, I guess kind of two in one. I mean, there's more, but for the sake of time, there's three things that I noticed. One, I already said, the Texans are fun, and I will watch them every Sunday until they prove me otherwise. Even if they lose, I guess that can be kind of 2-1. The Steelers, like, oh my goodness, Canada, I don't understand the loyalty to him. I don't understand why they're keeping him around. I understand that Pickett has not picked up where he left off. I understand that Najee Harris hasn't really developed into who they thought he would.
Yeah.
That defense is phenomenal, but they can only do so much. And when TJ Watt's not playing, which he has been this year, but when he's not playing, it's a completely different defense. I just don't that's a tough one. But I mean, they started like this last year too, right? And Mike Tomlin always finds a way to figure this out. So we'll see what happens. The other thing, the Eagles and the Cowboys. So I found this and I find this really interesting. And I do believe that I'm saying this as objectively as I can. You know where my loyalty lies. However, the Eagles are really interesting because they are not playing well.
No.
But I mean, on the offensive side, that game yesterday defensively was exactly what I thought was going to happen against the Buccaneers. Was the middle of the field is their weakest spot on the defense, and I just figured that Baker would carve them up and they would cover the +4.5. Right now, that didn't happen. The defensive line just made it impossible for Baker to be comfortable. And that game yesterday, like I I really like this Howell kid. Like, I don't know what he's ever going to be or if he's going to be good or not good, but he's fun to watch. Like,
He is fun to watch.
just risky, like super just doing whatever. I think we were saying it last week, like a super poor man's Josh Allen. Like, not the talent of
just
Josh Allen, but like
Josh Allen
that,
under the
like,
bridge.
but you get that, like, is he doing that? Yes, he's, or no, he's doing that.
I've been wanting to hate on him all along. They have one of my favorite guys in the league sitting on the bench for them, Jacoby Brissett's big favorite
One of
of
the
mine.
best
I don't know
backups
why, I
in the
just like
league.
him. But I can't hate on him. He's too much fun. Too much fun.
And but so between the Eagles and the Cowboys, this is where what I find is interesting. So the defense had a game yesterday that was forgettable. But like we said, especially with Maddox out for the season, Sidney Brown was hurt, and Evans was hurt as well. Cunningham is one of those guys where one game he's going to be on fire, and one game you're going to wish he wasn't on the team. It's just kind of the way it is. And the defensive front, like, I'm pretty sure they sacked Howell like 5 times yesterday. Like, the defensive front still, did what they had to do. Now, on the offensive side, what made yesterday more stressful than the previous 3 games was, especially against the Vikings and the Buccaneers, was the running game just did whatever they wanted. And that wasn't the case yesterday. And it was a weird game that kind of, and I know it's just been 4 games, but it kind of put the season in a nutshell where, like, you see Jalen Hurts make some plays and you're like, holy crap, like, that is what we've been waiting for. Like, that's the throw we've been waiting for. That's the decision we've been waiting for. But on the other hand, it is very obvious to me, and there's some other Philadelphia radio guys that I've heard say the same thing that would know better than I do, that it's obvious that, one, he doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. He just doesn't. 2, he does not want to get hit. And I don't know if it's him, if it's the coaching staff, if it's like the management, like somebody somewhere, something's in his head where you are not going to get hit like you did last year, and it is impacting his decision making in a big way. There was a couple plays yesterday where they needed a 4th down and he went out and he got it, and it's like, yes, man, like, that's what we need, that's what we're looking for. But there's other times where the pocket's starting to collapse, and rather than he just sits down. And so there's something missing there that I'm not, like,
is he nursing an injury? Maybe is this just like the pressure of the big contract? I don't know, but I know I've seen what you're saying. I've seen it a bunch of times this season already. Every week, that there's just a tentativeness that's not what we come to expect with Jalen Hurts. I think it is probably a lot of like adjusting new offensive coordinator. There's got to be an adjustment process, but it almost feels like they're trying to make him into a game manager, and then as a last resort, they let him be Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Rather than you've got Jalen Hurts, man. Unless he's dealing with something that we don't know about, they can be careful about that.
Besides,
but he doesn't look like he has the burst when he does leave the pocket. He doesn't have the same kind of explosiveness that we're used to, and that honestly is what I mean. The guy's a mainstay on the top 10 highlights of every week.
Yeah.
Last year, right? And he's not now, and that's gone. Still, you know what though? They're 4-0. He's still making the right read in the weird situations they're putting him in.
And that was what makes this the most Philadelphia thing ever, is that they are 4-0 with a lot to complain about. And it's just perfect for the city. It's just perfect.
But the AJ Brown stuff seems to have blown over.
Well, that happened a couple times last year too, and it's just he's just a very high maintenance wide receiver. Like, guys like Devontae Smith, he might not see the ball, and then you throw him the ball for the first time in the late second quarter, and he jumps up to the moon and grabs it, and it's fine. Like, he's fine. But guys like AJ Brown, he's just one of those guys that you have to get the ball like
More of a
early,
rhythm. Yeah,
right?
more of a
Like
rhythm guy.
early and often. And man, you saw that yesterday. Like, my brother was over watching the game, and I just kept saying, like, just give the ball to AJ Brown. If the running game's not working, if the passing game's not working, just get the ball to AJ Brown. Just do that. Now, AJ Brown, now I have Jalen Hurts as my quarterback on my fantasy team.
So do
And
I.
the guy that I was playing had AJ Brown and Christian McCaffrey, which was like 90 fantasy points between the two of them. So that was a little bittersweet. But
Fun fantasy fact. I've played against Kirk Cousins 3 weeks in a row in fantasy now.
what?
He keeps getting traded.
How?
Keeps getting traded. And I keep playing who trades for him. Anyway,
And do you keep losing?
I keep winning, but it's not because Jalen Hurts is outplaying Kirk
No.
Cousins in fantasy, because he's not.
Now, Hurts did
Yeah.
get 35 points yesterday. It was his best.
In my league,
It
it
was
was 20. In my league, it was 25. We have
okay.
our own scoring setup or whatever.
So one last quick football thought. Sorry to cut you off. Just one last thing on my head. The Cowboys. I still now that like defense with like 3/4 of Micah Parsons, he obviously hurt himself and he just comes right back on the field and does his thing. Although he only gave me like 1.5 fantasy point yesterday after giving me like 25 the week before, so that was a bit upsetting. But
we
and
should write a
then
letter.
like obviously Diggs was out, but that defense is still like they're so opportunistic, right? Like, if you give them an inch, man, they're gonna destroy you. I still haven't seen that offense, which every offseason, and not just from an Eagles fan, this is a like league-wide thing. Every offseason, one of the biggest questions, because it's the Dallas Cowboys, one of the biggest questions is, can you win with Dak Prescott? Every offseason, that's a massive question. And for me, he hasn't had to win them any games. And what I thought from the Eagles side yesterday was as bad, not even bad, but just as uncomfortable as that offense was. That was the first time that the Eagles had to go out and actually win a game, because their defense had been holding it down for the rest of it, right? They jump out to a quick lead and the defense holds it down and it's fine.
Running game kills the clock and
100%.
We get more fantasy points from Jalen Hurts. And,
right. But yesterday, Jalen Hurts actually did have to make some plays to win that game yesterday. And the conversation for another day, throwing the ball to AJ Brown for a touchdown with 1:40 left. Like, I don't hate it. A little more stressful than it needed to be. But regardless, that's my only thought with the Cowboys, is that I just want to see Dak win a game. But then again, with a defense like that, if you don't have to, then you don't have to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we still have, I don't remember who week 2 was. We still have, it was the Jets. He carved up the Jets. Whether the defense had been good or bad that game, they're winning that game, and the Jets have a good defense. They annihilated.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
No, yeah, but it was the Jets offense that they were playing against too. So, yeah, we'll see. That's the kind of question, right? Like, there'll be that question about everybody. There was always that question about Andy Reid. Can you win the Super Bowl if Andy Reid's your coach? You know, he can't manage the clock. He always does something silly with his timeouts.
Right.
Does his gimmicky stuff really work on the biggest stage? And that question exists until he answered.
Until they won. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll find out. Maybe you can't.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, like, I don't remember. Yeah, maybe you can't. But I don't see why not. I don't think there's no fatal flaw in Dak Prescott's game. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
He's
As
he's
long
a top
as
10 quarterback. He's not a top 5 quarterback. That's where that is, you know.
it's just one of my favorite pastimes every year, just waiting to see what the final play of the Dallas Cowboys season will be. I
I
feel
just
like
I,
every
yeah.
year it's just, and especially when the Eagles don't make it to the playoffs, and I know I have one thing left to cheer for,
Yeah.
and it's what is the Dallas Cowboys last season or like last play of the season going to be? Because you know it's going to be just absolutely
Something bonkers.
something insane.
Yeah.
I still
I
feel
noticed
bad for
now
Zeke,
they
dude.
lost. They lost, but yeah, I was gonna say I noticed Zeke didn't have to play center at all yesterday. So that's still a win.
No,
Books. Yeah.
Mac Jones is done though, right?
They say he's coming back to start again next week, but I think he's cooked.
He
Yeah,
has to be, man.
I don't think he was ever good.
He has to be, and I feel
Bailey
like the
Zappi
games.
seems like a nicer fella. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who's nice or not. All I know is that they are awful, and I bet them the over 7.5 because I figured 7.5, like they might miss the playoffs, sure, but 7.5 seems extremely low. And turns out it was not low.
It was
it
not.
was it was
Yeah.
high, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, um, yeah, all right. I mean, I was gonna say that's enough football talk for one day, but there's never enough football talk. We know that.
No.
But there is blah blah blah. There's only so much time in the day. So let's move on to the news that was heard around the world last week. Now, full disclosure, we'll just pull back the curtain, I believe is the saying. Um, we did this episode last week, but then Holiday was traded, and we figured, and of course, I'm talking about the Damian Lillard trade. And we did an episode on it, but then Holiday was traded, and we figured, hey, might as well go through it again, chat through it again.
Yeah.
So, what do you got for me?
So it's good that today was NBA Media Day. Training camp opens tomorrow
That's
for
right.
everybody. And Joe Cronin, GM of the Trailblazers, says that Malcolm Brogdon is not likely to be traded before the season starts. They want to keep him
Really?
in house where they need veterans. They have a really young team now. So so he's going to be sticking around. I assume he'll be gone by the trade deadline. Um, but that's enough wheeling and dealing. Also, if they do another 2 or 3 for 1, I mean, there's roster limits, right? They've got too many players as it is.
Right. Yeah,
So,
fair.
yeah. So we were thinking maybe we'll do winners and losers on this. You want to the main teams? I'll go through what because I think probably you'll want to start with Portland. So I've got this jotted down here. Portland trades away Dame Lillard. We know him, 33-year-old point guard, all world, second best 3-point shooter in the league, maybe the second best of all time. Traded away Nasir Little, a young player on a really good value contract, and Yusuf Nurkic, who's now 29 years old. He still has 3 years and about $55 million left on his contract. He's had a couple of really brutal lower body injuries the last few years.
Yes,
So they traded him away. That's not, they got off of his contract, is what that is. That's not losing a player in a lot of ways. That's getting off of a bad contract.
I
And
agree.
in return, they pick up Malcolm Brogdon, who will be sticking around at least briefly. DeAndre Ayton, former #1 overall pick, 25 years old. Robert Williams III, known as Time Lord. He's also 25 years old. Another center. They went from having nothing up the middle to having two young bigs with bright futures. Picked up Tumani Kamara, a young player with some upside. We'll see. That's a developmental player. They've got Golden State's first round pick this year, top 4 protected. Golden State's not going to tank that badly. Nothing that horrible can happen to a team that has Steph Curry on it. So
Right.
they've got Golden State's first round pick this year. They've got 2029 unprotected picks, one each from Milwaukee and Boston. By 2029, those could be unprotected first round picks. Those could be really, really nice. And then
Yes.
the option
Especially for
unprotected again
Milwaukee, by the way.
to
Especially for
swap
Milwaukee.
28 and 30 first round picks with Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So that's the haul, and it is a huge, huge haul for Dame Lillard,
Massive.
Nasir Little, and getting off of Nurkic's contract. So you want to take away like the winners?
I mean, for me personally, and I've had arguments, but I feel like you and I are almost on the same page, maybe a little bit different. For me, it's clearly Portland is the number one winner in this trade. I think a lot of people automatically jump to Milwaukee because I mean they got like the golden goose as it is, which is a saying that's always kind of made my head spin, but they have gotten the golden goose. Um, but I think Portland just did a phenomenal job with this. People thought that like Miami, well, specifically Dame, had this like bullet to their head, right? Like this is the only trade I'm doing. Don't bother, blah blah blah. And it's like, nah, like we're gonna do what's best for the team, and they did what's best for the team and more. I don't
As a whole,
know. Yeah, like I don't know how like if this was too much or not. But clearly, this was a great package. Up here in Toronto land, there's a lot of people who are saying, like, if that's all it took, like, why weren't we knocking on that door? Like, why weren't we calling? And that's a whole other conversation you and I can have.
yeah. Maybe
Uh,
as a part of the season preview, we can
yeah,
recap the Raptors off season. But
yeah, because it's not that it's not that I don't want Dame here, but I also don't really know what the Raptors are even doing in the first place. So that's a whole nother conversation. But to me, it is clearly Portland. I think they have like already with Scoot, with Sharp, um, and there's more guys. Like I just think that they already have a really good young core. I think Aiton is getting a bad rap for his time in Phoenix and through the beef with Monty Williams. I
mm,
think for the Suns, my personal opinion, I think for the Suns to basically give up on him and move away from him, I think is a mistake. And I don't even really know what the Suns are doing. I know that they have like Durant and Booker and like Bradley Beal, who's just gonna magically play 70 games now. Like I just don't. I think that
yeah,
it is clearly Portland. When it comes to Milwaukee, I think that they are a winner. If you are comparing Milwaukee to the Suns, then clearly Milwaukee is a much bigger winner than the Suns are. And we'll probably get to this later on. I do question the defense now. I think losing Holiday is a massive uh, chunk out of the defensive armor, as it will, especially as the playoffs go on.
mhm.
And then we can get into it too, like the Celtics. Like, I think this is huge for the Celtics. To me, the only real loser is the Suns, and that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But
I
what
mean,
says you?
I agree with you. I would have Milwaukee as probably the biggest winner. They got the best player in the
Okay,
whole
yeah,
trade.
fair.
He's just going to be, I think, I before these two trades, I had Milwaukee and Boston as the two best teams in the East. I had Milwaukee first, Boston second. After these two
Interesting.
trades, I still do. I just the difference is one, Milwaukee's going to be way more fun to watch, and number
Oh, it's gonna
two,
be a blast.
the
Yeah, it'd be
distance
great.
between them is still, I don't know, maybe one game in the standings, but the distance between whoever finishes second and whoever finishes third is a lot bigger. I think so. I think
Yes.
both teams gave up quite a bit of depth to make the trade happen. Boston's still got incredible depth. I'd be a little bit worried for them. They were already relying on three injury prone bigs, right? With Williams and with Porzingis, who they also brought in earlier this year,
Yep.
and now they're down to two, right? So
Yeah.
that's not ideal unless you love Adrian Hauser or you think Luke Cornett's going to break out. Um, I don't, but I mean,
Right.
look at what they have on the perimeter, right? Like they gave up Marcus Smart, yep, and they gave up Malcolm Brogdon in this trade. Um, but they still had Derek White. He never went anywhere. and now they bring in Drew Holiday, who's just an incredible fit, and
A phenomenal fit. I agree.
a phenomenal fit. I mean, he's a phenomenal fit on any team in the league, realistically.
Right.
But they get to have him, so he gets to be their phenomenal fit, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you worry about Al Horford. He's 37 years old. He's shockingly not a particularly injury-prone player,
No.
but he's 37 years old. So I mean, that just means he hasn't been. He's going to be at some point off
Yeah.
the floor because he's 37 years old, and they're really relying on him heavily. But I mean, Milwaukee too. They gave up Grayson Allen. They gave up, obviously, Drew Holiday. Grayson Allen's no great shakes. He's difficult to play in the playoffs, but they don't have a ton of depth. Here's the thing, though, and for this reason, I like this trade for both of those teams, Boston and Milwaukee. If Tatum goes down, it doesn't matter if you have three bigs or two that you trust
I would
because you're not
say
going
it
anywhere.
doesn't matter as
If
much.
if
It's still
Tatum goes
Tatum.
down, if Tatum goes down, you're done. You're done. That's
Yeah.
it. You're done. If Giannis is limited like he was in the playoffs last year, clearly his back was killing. His knee wound up having surgery on his knee. He was moving around weird in the playoffs, like you could tell he was not right.
Yeah.
If that's the case again this playoffs, it doesn't matter if you have Dame Lillard or if you have Drew. They had Drew Holiday; he was the only healthy one of the big three, and they lost to Miami in the first round.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. The depth, I'm not worried about the depth. It's all about the big guys for both of these teams. It's going to be about the health and effectiveness of Jason Tatum and the health and effectiveness of Giannis, right? And now that they've brought in, Drew's not the number two option offensively for Boston, but he is, I think, pretty clearly. Drew Holiday is the second best player on that team at this point.
I would agree with you.
I don't love Jaylen Brown's game. It has not improved. We're 2 years away from Jaylen Brown having the worst contract in the NBA. That's just a fact.
I would
with his left hand.
I would trust Holiday more than Brown in a second.
He's not going to score as much, but he's a better player.
And when he signed that contract, Jaylen Brown, like, I understand sports, okay? I understand that the next guy up who is in that star kind of sphere, he's going to be the next highest paid guy. That's just the way it is. We saw, I think it was Justin Herbert first, and then it was Hurts, or the other way around,
and then
Joe Burrow, right?
And then Mahomes.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's coming.
It
came.
It came.
Yeah. So I get how it works. That being said, and this is what drives me crazy, is like $62 million for Jaylen Brown. Did they watch the playoffs? It drives me.
This is my left hand. It's about as useful as his is in an NBA playoff game. Like that's how that works.
It just doesn't make. It's just crazy. So my question for you, man, because you would know this. You would know this better.
Brown, but that's a hideous contract.
I mean, like, I like him too, right? But it's like I can pay somebody to cut grass for, $15 an hour, and they do a great job. But I'm not going to pay them $40 an hour to do the same thing. I'll just do it myself. Which that analogy eventually breaks down. But you get what I'm trying to say.
I get what you're saying.
So just a question for you that just came to my mind, because you would know a little bit better than me. So the defensive questions that the Bucks now face, no doubt they're probably the most exciting offensive team, if not the most. It's up there. But the defensive liabilities, especially in the playoffs, that is inevitable. So if the Bucks, at least for me, if the Bucks and the Celtics meet in the conference finals, let's say, which we all kind of feel like that's what's going to happen, but
we hope so.
It's sports. You never know. Do you think that the depth concerns on Boston cancel out the defensive concerns for the Celtics? Like, do you think that those, or for the Bucks rather, do you think those two things just make it kind of a wash?
So I mean, first of all, I hope we find out, because I think that stylistically that would be a really fun series.
Yeah.
Also, I think it'd be yeah. I mean, Drew Holiday is going to be covering Dame Lillard in that series. That's that's fun. We've
Oh
seen
yeah.
them. We've seen them
Blast.
square off in the playoffs once before. I think it was 2018, maybe, when the Pelicans played the Blazers in the first round. Pelicans upset the Blazers in the first round. Drew Holiday
18 or
made
19. I can't remember.
Made life very hard for Dame Lillard. Of course, then his co-star was C.J. McCollum, and now his co-star is Giannis. So yeah,
It's a little upgrade.
I think ultimately the question in that series is really more about, yeah, they're gonna try to isolate Dame and try to put him into pick and rolls all night long, every game, as much as they can, and that'll work for better or worse. Couple of things though. Brooke Lopez was, I think, second in Defensive Player of the Year last year. A great uh, drop pick and roll center, one of the best shot blockers in the league. Giannis is a perennial DPOY candidate. He also plays there. Chris Middleton is well above average. Last time we saw him at full strength, a well above average wing defender. They just signed Campaign, who can be pretty pesky at the point of attack. It'll take a lot of, I mean, yeah, Dame's one guy, and he's the weak link, no matter who else is on the court. But they have some really strong links. The flip side of that is, what answer does Boston have for Giannis, and Giannis on a team with Dame Lillard, the kind of space he's going to have? We've seen Giannis with a head of steam in transition. We're going to see Giannis with a lot more space to operate in the half court now. And like, sorry, Al Horford is 37 years old.
Yeah.
Kristaps Porzingis is on two broken ankles all the time, plantar fasciitis constantly, and like, yeah, maybe you're definitely not playing Luke Cornett or Sam Hauser in those games. You know, like
Right.
you're in trouble right from the jump. So I don't know, because I mean, Jason Tatum's phenomenal. You know, and that team looks like it should be really cohesive. On paper, that team makes so much sense. Their top six players, and then Peyton Pritchard's a lights out 3-point shooter.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Their third guard off the bench. So and he'll actually get to play this year, which is, you know, as a Raptors fan, you hate to see it.
He's a really fun player to watch, though.
Yeah, not against the Raptors. He just, I don't know.
No.
It's like there's magnets in the net. I don't understand. But yeah,
but the Raptors are just frustrating in general right now.
Yeah,
that's a whole other thing.
But it'll be really fun to see. And I think I have Milwaukee still a little bit ahead. I think head to head, Milwaukee probably wins. One thing we didn't touch on has nothing to do with the trade. Bucks have a new coach, Adrian Griffin, former Raptors, beloved former Raptors assistant.
Yep.
We have no idea what he's going to look like as a head coach. We just don't know. I don't think anybody can know. But he got to sign off. Like, Giannis seems to like him, or he wouldn't have been hired.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know if that means anything or doesn't. And we have Joe Mazzulla on the other side for Boston. And we know Joe Mazzulla, the last time we saw him, he did not look ready for the big chair.
That now was going to be
a whole new bunch of assistant coaches for him.
Yeah, that was going to be my point to you. Yeah,
but man, he looked like a deer, and he looked like we'll switch sports, but he looked like Sam Darnold against the Patriots last year. That's what he was seeing ghosts, man.
Yeah.
He was seeing ghosts.
I mean, that was going to be my point to you. Like, maybe the depth concerns for Boston is a wash against, for me, some defensive concerns. Like, your point's well taken, but then maybe the coaching issues potentially that await the Bucks with this coach, we don't know. Maybe that's a wash with Boston's. So maybe
I'll take that. Like, I'll take the unknown of Adrian Griffin over the known of Joe Mazzulla at this point.
Right.
One other win. Like, Celtics fans are already winners because they got Drew Holiday, right? But they're extra winners because now they don't have to wonder why Joe Mazzulla hates Robert Williams III so much. Why won't he just play him? They don't,
right?
Because he plays for Portland now, guys. But yeah, but I mean, in free agency, right? The Celtics also lost Grant Williams, who was, I an excellent defensive player and a maybe streaky, but solidly above average 3-point shooter as well.
He'll
Good
be
front court
missed.
defensive player.
Yeah, he'll be
Again, as
missed.
a Raptors fan, I'm not sad to see him go to the Western Conference. That guy also really
Right.
seemed to have a hate on for the ACC. I don't know why, but yeah, fun
Well,
trade.
that's a whole other conversation we'll save for another time. Is the Dallas Mavericks, man? They are so mystifying to me. Like bringing Kyrie back. And listen, this podcast just started a few weeks ago. You and I haven't had this conversation yet. I've been defending Kyrie for years, and I've been his biggest defender, supporter, and I'm just about tapped out. I'm just about ready to
Yeah,
wave that flag.
I
And
can't do it with Kyrie.
that's a whole other interesting thing. So quickly to wrap up the Dame trade conversation, where do you think, because I do think that you and I would both agree that for Milwaukee, the roster that you see right now will not be the roster that you will see come playoff time. And I would assume that, I mean, there's a little bit less wiggle room with Boston, but I would assume that that would be the same for Boston. Where do you think that leaves the rest of the East, specifically the top half of the East? Because really, you have Philly, you have Cleveland. I hope that the Knicks can build on what they did last year. I don't know what it is. I always love the NBA more when the Knicks are actually relevant.
Yeah,
And
just
which is
relevant. They
like,
don't even have to be like great. Just relevant.
no,
Right?
just
It's
be
important.
around.
I
Just be
agree.
around.
MSG should be.
Um,
Never been to Madison Square Garden, but even
it's
on TV, you can
crazy.
see that it's a different place, right? It's just yeah.
Yeah, it's just a whole different vibe. I beyond that, like Philly, Cleveland, and the Knicks. And because the Knicks are the Knicks, that's not even a guarantee. But what do you think this trade does for the rest of the not even contenders, but just like playoff teams in the Eastern
So yeah,
Conference?
I mean, I think best we should start. We'll talk about the Heat, who I think are huge losers here, right? I think they had some
Oh, the
entitlement
Heat. Yeah, I
issues.
forgot about them.
They
Yeah.
thought they were going to get Dame, and in thinking that they could have. I mean, it was going to be tough, but they could have re-signed either Gabe Vincent or Max Strus. Gabe Vincent went to the Lakers. Max Strus went
Yep.
to Cleveland. He's a hand in glove fit in Cleveland.
I agree with you.
Um, Speaking of Cleveland and the Sixers lost George Niang also to Cleveland. The Sixers are doing their own weird Daryl Morey stuff, trying to thread three needles at once and
Yeah.
failing badly. They're backwards. Cleveland, I think Cleveland's going to require time. I don't think that this is what the next good Cleveland team looks like. Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell are both question marks. Evan Mobley is. There's a lot of hype on Evan Mobley. He needs to
He's a
gain
couple years away still.
and yeah, he can't. I mean, the idea of him as an outside shooter is still just a theory. And the
Yes.
idea of him being a dominant rebounder is a theory. It's all just theoretical at this point. But yeah, I'd say the Heat are huge losers in this whole scenario. They get back a healthy Tyler Hero, who's going to have a lot to prove. His name has been just dragged all summer, right? So just unfairly, he's a good player. People talking wild stuff about him, like you can't get a first round pick for a 23-year-old guy who's been sixth man of the year, averages over 20 points a game, and is 23 years old. Yeah, you can get a first round pick for that guy. I don't. People talk a lot of stuff, but
Well,
that's
and like
good. But they're paper thin. Their rotation is paper thin.
Miami's been wanting to trade him all summer, right? So he's just showing
Yeah,
up
it's just
to training camp like, hey guys, I'm still here.
yeah. So I don't know. Jimmy Butler doesn't play more than 55 games a year anymore. He doesn't have to. I
What
think
if
the Knicks have such a great war chest of assets. Like if a star becomes available, the Knicks can easily add that star. They have the
yeah.
salary
If
max
James Dolan
releases.
doesn't get it in his own way as he tends to do. But
Yeah,
yes,
he
I
seems
agree
to have
with you.
he said in a recent interview that he's bored with sports ownership now, so he's just not paying attention.
Right, which is probably
He's an
better for
idiot, but
everybody. But quick question for you though.
Yeah.
Just started to cut you off, but what if they could trade Dame's wardrobe for Tyler Hero's wardrobe? So at least if they're keeping Tyler Hero, he doesn't look the way he does when he's hurt on the bench.
He would.
Maybe
I'm pretty
just
sure he would still figure out a way to arts and crafts that stuff into looking like
that's a
a
wild thing
fabricated
to
mouth.
me when stars in the NBA are hurt. They're not wearing like team swag. They're not
No,
wearing like a
no,
Celtics jersey or Celtics shirt or Heat or
no.
whoever.
They dress like TikTok. I don't understand it either, but
Dude,
I
and
love it.
like
It's
Ben
hilarious.
Simmons is wearing like a
That was
straight like
awful. That was an elimination game, and he
leather
was dressed up
short
like a rainbow or
suits.
whatever. He was like
Yeah,
a
but
bag. He looked like his bag of Skittles was. I
I
don't
just
understand.
Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
It's just hard to be like, does this like they keep on panning and he has this like bucket hat on with like Elton John sunglasses, and no disrespect to Elton John, but
Hey man, he's a legend,
there's only one man who can wear those glasses, and it's Elton
the
John.
Rocket Man.
So
Yeah,
but
yeah.
anyway, so yeah, like to me it takes away, like I think the West is fairly wide open. Like there's
Hmm.
nobody, like I do think that the Nuggets are probably the favorite still, but their bench
Yeah.
is thinner than it was
Oh
last year.
man, it is so
And
thin.
and so I think the West is going to be a ton of fun.
Yep.
Um and the Lakers are like still lurking around, and
They look good.
it's gonna
Yeah.
be a lot of fun. But the East just doesn't really seem competitive at this point. And I know that it's sports, and I know that something crazy will happen, and it probably won't pan out that way. But at the same time, I find that this trade, as much fun and interesting it will be to watch the Bucks and the Celtics, I find the East has become less interesting.
One thing to look
But
forward to, and like we
the
will,
step for Cleveland and the Knicks will be interesting to watch. So
yeah, and one team in the East that I think has, I'm not predicting it, but they have potential to really break out.
if you say the
And
Raptors, I'm gonna slap you.
no, no, no,
Okay.
no. The Indiana Pacers are, look at
Ah,
them. They're way better than you think they are.
yeah,
They have a chance if they stay healthy. They also are really well positioned to make a trade if they need to. Um, Kind of love that team, and
yeah, they're a fun team.
I could see them crashing the party as a top four seed
Yeah,
this year.
yeah,
But
they're a
yeah,
fun team.
we'll get to more of this stuff. I'm sure we'll preview the NBA season. Training camp opens by the time people are listening to this today, right? So
100%, 100%. All right, well, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and dive into some MLB postseason preview. Postseason starts tonight. We've already broken the fourth wall. We are recording this on Monday night, but you're listening to this today. So tonight, we'll be right back with more Sports Addict Live right after this. Sports Addict Live is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. With over 40 years experience, First Round Collectibles offers the widest variety of quality Beckett-graded sports cards anywhere. Representing 10 major sports, First Round has all your favorite players from all your favorite teams at great prices. We are proud of our knowledgeable staff and top-rated customer service, and our reviews vouch for our integrity. Visit us today at FirstRoundCollectibles.com and find your heroes. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. And welcome back, Sports Addict Live, brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Go to FirstRoundCollectibles.com and find your heroes. That is one ST RoundCollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. All right. So I was reading on The Athletic today. I thought they had a really cool piece. They interviewed 20 of their MLB writers and fantasy writers. And basically, they just voted on who they think are going to win the wild card rounds for the MLB. We talked briefly about the World Series odds on our last episode before life got in the way, to say the least, but that's okay. We're back now. We'll touch on that later. So I thought it'd be fun to introduce a new segment, a new game. The first bit on Sports Addict Live. Yes, athletic or no athletic. So basically, do we agree or disagree with the majority of the votes on these different topics? So first, the Miami Marlins and the Philadelphia Phillies. Odds on this series. The Phillies are, let me get out of my stupid decimal. I'll sound like a real gambler. The Phillies are minus 200 to win this series. Marlins are plus 160. The Marlins are a team that I've actually followed somewhat closely this year. I just find them fun. Like they're not gonna blow you away. Their bullpen's pretty good. Their starting rotation's okay. But with the batters they have when they're hot, and that's a huge when they're hot, because they can get cold pretty quickly. But when they're hot, they're a really fun team to watch. So the Athletic has, out of 20 baseball and baseball fantasy writers, 95% of the vote goes with the Phillies. 95%. So for you, Tom Brown, yes athletic or no athletic?
That's a big yes athletic for me. Yeah. My Marlins are fun. They got great uniforms. I love the fact that they play Japanese style baseball. Everybody makes contact. Phillies defense is much improved this year, and they employ the closest thing to a clutch player that baseball has in Bryce Harper. The Phillies roll. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And they have this, I love, just for fun, when I'm just feeling like putting a smile on my face, I look up Kyle Schwarber's stats and I see a negative 900 average, yet he has 50 home runs. I just find that so hilarious. I think he broke 200 before the season was over. I can't remember for sure, but I always love seeing that.
Yeah. It's fun times. And all these slap hitters on the Marlins can't hit the ball far enough for him to butcher it in left field anyway. So
right.
So it's okay.
Right.
That's weird with that.
I want to
play him in center field if you wanted to against the Marlins, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I want to pick the Marlins here, but I think you're right. And I mean, when you have Zach Wheeler going into NOLA and it's a 3-game series, that's just not fair. And I believe Sandy is out for the Marlins, if I remember correctly. So
I believe I saw the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's tough. And I mean, he reminds me a lot of, in a way different way, but he reminded me a lot of Barrios for the Jays last year and of Manoah this year, in the sense that all the talent's there, but he was getting hit around a lot at the beginning of the year, and had aspirations for Cy Young, but then kind of balanced out as the year went on. All right.
You're marking these down so we can come back and congratulate ourselves for going 100% correct later.
Absolutely. Wow.
That's how that'll work.
Why can't I find? Oh, here we go. All right. Arizona Diamondbacks and Milwaukee Brewers. Now, this kind of surprised me. I feel like you're going to agree with the Athletic here. For reference on FanDuel, minus 154 for the Brewers, plus 126 for the Diamondbacks. And the Athletic voted 85% Brewers and 15% Diamondbacks. Yes, Athletic or no Athletic?
Yes, Athletic. Now, having been a Brewers fan for some time,
yes,
and watching them fail to score runs in the playoffs for some time, that one that takes a little bit out of me saying it, but I'm going back to this well again. This is the last year for this team in this iteration of this team, and they've been to the playoffs a bunch. They know what it takes. They haven't been able to do it, but they know what it takes.
Yes.
The Diamondbacks haven't, and so don't.
Great
So
story this year, though.
fantastic story,
Diamondbacks, great
super
story.
fun. Again, not unlike the Marlins, like it's so nice to see some fresh. Well, in both cases, we're calling it fresh meat, but yeah, it's nice to see fresh teams in there. But yeah,
Right.
I'm going with MKE.
Now, the only thing, it doesn't make me think the Diamondbacks will win. I do think, and oh man, my brain, Kelly and Gellin.
Yeah, Gallon.
Yeah, those two guys are
They're
great
awesome.
pitchers. They're
They're awesome.
studs.
They're awesome.
But I mean, Burns from Milwaukee. Now, it was announced today that Woodruff is out for at least this series.
Mhm.
Do you think that makes a huge difference? The Brewers have a pretty spicy bullpen. Like
They do, and they
have
also
a
have
good pitching
they have
staff.
Craig Counsell pulling the strings too, and
Right. He's a
they
wizard.
do like they're sort of like Tampa Bay Rays light in terms of their
Right.
spreadsheet voodoo.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust Craig Counsell. He's somehow underrated still, but he's just a phenomenal
Yeah.
in-game manager.
I
He's also at the end of his contract, and he did not get extended. I think he didn't want to extend. So
oh
this is
interesting.
and that team loves him. So I they've got a lot to play for.
Yeah.
They've got Rowdy Tellez. They've got the nicest building I've ever been in is their home park.
I've heard this.
Park.
I've heard it's
And
incredible.
like building of any kind. It's just an incredible place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with Milwaukee all day.
I will say for you betting geeks out there, I would rather take the Brewers at 154 than the Phillies at minus 200. I do think the Phillies will win, but I think you're getting much bigger value if you want to go with a fairly comparable as far as like sure bets go. I think this is a pretty close. Now it's
They're
baseball.
heavy favorites. Yeah.
It's baseball and
Right.
anything can happen. But yeah, okay. So let's go over to the AL. Do you have something else to add there? Sorry.
No.
Okay, perfect. So Texas. I thought
I can make
you,
something up, but no. I got another.
I thought I got a little like but all right. Texas and Tampa Bay. Texas, who was very Mets-esque of last year, where they were leading the division for like the whole season and then just puked all over themselves.
Very nearly did it again this year.
Just about. All right, where is it here? So on FanDuel, the Rangers are plus 138. And the Rays are minus 170, which seems about right. And the Athletic, I'm not doing a very smooth job at finding these things. All right, here we go. Rangers, Tampa Bay, 80% vote the Tampa Bay Rays and 20% vote the Texas Rangers. Huge disparity in these votes so far. Like it's like not a very small chunk. So Tampa Bay Rays, Texas Rangers, what say you? Yes, Athletic or no Athletic?
Yeah, I hate doing this, but I gotta say yes, Athletic again. Because what is dead can never die.
Right.
I can't
You just think it's
very,
done
very,
with Texas.
very, very, very tired of watching the Tampa Bay Rays in the playoffs. I'm tired of watching them in the regular season.
Single year.
I'm tired of everything about them. I'm tired of the trop. I like Yandy Diaz. That's the end of the story.
Yes.
But they're going to win this series, and they'll probably win it in 2 games.
Yep. The only thing that I would argue, and it's not a great argument, I grant you, I do think that when the Rangers, like, you look at the Rays like lineup, and they all can just smoke the ball, but you look at their lineup and you don't even know 2/3 of these players. Like, you're like, who are these guys? And they're just like hitting the ball.
Which one is
I,
Low and which one is Lau again? Why are they spelled the
right.
same?
I I
Pick
will
one,
say though that
trade one.
the injuries on the pitching staff for the Rays haven't caught up with them yet.
No.
And if they do, the Rangers are a team that can take advantage of that. Now, will they? Won't they? Pretty much Seager and Simeon are like the only two players that have actually come to every game this year. A lot of those guys just kind of disappear. When those two are on, though, that's a pretty lethal 1-2 punch.
Well, yeah.
So I do think there is a world where these bats wake up for the Rangers and the Rays can't recover. That being said, the Rangers don't have a great pitching staff. And as much as the Rangers can beat up on the Rays, I think the Rays can do just the same to the Rangers, because the Rays pitching staff has to fall apart, and the Rangers pitching staff has already done that. So I want to say Texas again, but I'm having a hard time bringing myself to it.
Of all of these, this is the one I would most like to be wrong about. I'm fine with the other two. I would love to be wrong here.
Yes.
Texas should be rewarded for going out and actively trying to make their team better. And now they're playing against a team that actively tries to spend as little money as possible and have players that nobody knows their
Right.
names. Imagine being a Rays fan. I know there's only 9 of them, but imagine being one of those
Right.
9 people. And like, what jersey do you buy? Don't buy any jerseys, man. That guy's gone
No.
immediately. But it's the spreadsheet voodoo,
Just
spreadsheet
buy
witchcraft,
just buy
whatever you want to
Kevin
call it.
Cash's jersey.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the only good one.
Yeah, just buy his jersey.
Kevin Cash is like, you remember Pirates of the Caribbean? You know
Sure.
the Davy Jones's locker and all that. You know the ship underneath the guy with the tentacles on his face. That's
Yeah.
Kevin Cash.
Just there.
Hopefully, Seager, or maybe more fun for a Jays fan. Maybe Mark Semien goes ahead and cuts the tentacles off of him and cuts out his heart like Johnny Depp did in the movie. But I don't predict that happening. I think that
No.
in fact they're going to lose, and I think it sucks.
Well, we're going to finish with the center of the universe, the Toronto Blue Jays, which, by the way, get swept by the Rangers and then go on to sweep the Red Sox, if I'm not mistaken, then go on to sweep the Rays, then go on to lose 2 out of 3 to the Yankees in embarrassing fashion, then go on
are terrible.
Did they lose 2 out of 3 to the Rays?
They lost 2 out of 3 because
they
everybody was hungover yesterday. Yeah.
Well,
they lost game 1, won game 2, lost game 3.
Okay. Right. But then Seattle
won
lost.
Game 1, lost game 2, lost game 3. They won the first game of the series.
You're right. Friday night. And then Seattle lost yesterday. Or on Saturday. So they clinched regardless. Seattle's an interesting team to talk about at another time as well. I felt like they were in pretty good position to take care of business. But the way that the Jays backdoored into the playoffs is a summation of their whole season. Like, it's so frustrating. And I was listening to Loud Outs today on MLB Network Radio, and they were doing their like power rankings of the 12 playoff teams. And both guys had the Jays at either 8 or 7. And both of them said that this team, out of all the teams, if they just wake up and play to their talent level, they can win the World Series. But they have them at 8 and 7 out of 12 because all season it's just been so
miraculously they have the healthiest rotation of anybody in the playoffs.
Yes.
They have the best rotation of anybody in the playoffs.
Yes.
That's without Manoah. They have they're dripping with talent. They are the best defense in the playoffs. Why are they not the favorites? And the reason is because, well, we watched 162 games of the reason this year. We watched 164 games of it last year. We
Yep.
watched 162 games of it the year before that. It's because
Yep.
there's something missing between the years. But what does the Athletic say?
All right. So odds, and this actually kind of shocked me from FanDuel. I guess I understand it because it is in Minnesota. So I can understand where they're coming from. But Minnesota is minus 134 favored to win the series. And the
That's
Jays are
interesting.
plus 110. There's some um interesting kind of prop bets too. I'll quickly throw at you, like Jays to win the series 2-1 plus 290, which I really like.
I'd
Um
love that. I would
Jays,
jump on that.
yeah, Jays to win the series 2-0 plus 310, which you have Gosman starting game one, Bassett most likely pitching game two. But they also have Sonny Gray and another homie that my brain is completely blanking on. So they have, like, the Twins do have a very good pitching staff. But anyway, I digress. So Twins minus 134, Blue Jays plus 110. The Athletic, the closest, and not even that close, but the closest prediction out of the four. Toronto Blue Jays at 65% and the Minnesota Twins at 35%. I feel like it's going to be a clean sweep of the Yes Athletic, but what do you say? Yes or no,
So,
Athletic?
in an epic showdown of the 1991 World Series
Mm-hmm.
champion Twins and the 1992 and 1993 World Champion Blue Jays, we have one team that we both know. It just feels like we're cursed to cheer for against another team that may legitimately be cursed.
I heard today
Since
that the Twins.
2004,
Yes, I like where you're going. Yep.
the Minnesota Twins have lost 18 straight playoff games. They have not won a playoff game since 2004.
That has to be a North American
It
sports record,
is.
right? It
It
has to
is
be.
the 18 game losing streak in the playoffs is the record for futility. A
Yeah, it
weird
has to
futility because
be.
you have to make it to the playoffs to you have to be good enough to be that bad. It's awesome.
Right.
That's just a
Yeah.
very baseball stat, right? Like it's hard to lose 20 games. You have to be a pretty good pitcher to lose 20 games because you have to stay in the game through 5 innings 20 times in
Right.
the season, right? Like you have
Right.
to be a pretty good pitcher to lose 20 games. You have to be a
Right.
pretty good franchise to lose 18 straight playoff games. They've not won a playoff series since 2002. They are absolutely cursed. I'm predicting yes, Athletic. The Jays are going to win the series, but it's going to take 3 games. That streak is over. Jump on that. I love that. I love that Jays in three.
Yeah, plus
But
290.
the Seattle losing Saturday rather than Sunday meant that Gosman did not have to start Sunday
Yep.
with the wild card.
Huge.
We know Gosman's numbers on extra rest. He
Yeah.
is Pedro Martinez with extra rest. Look that up. Like he is legit amazing when he has extra rest. I think his ERA is
Yep.
under 2, I believe. Uh, yeah, and that's just such a great start. They're lined up. I like the Twins. I don't even hate the Twins. If the
No.
worst case scenario happened, well, I'm in Manitoba. There's as many Twins hats here as there are Jays hats. There
Sure.
used to be
Yeah. Canada's
before
second.
Double A, before
Well, see, yeah.
2015,
Yeah.
before Double A made the Jays relevant again. That was the case.
Yeah.
Um, it's only 6 hours, eh? So people
Yeah. Not
go,
far.
yeah. It's closer than Regina. Uh,
It's
yeah,
closer than me.
yeah. Well, significantly. Uh, but yeah, so I'm going with the Jays here. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I am. I
It's tough. It's tough, right? But yeah.
so here's the thing for me, and I may be overthinking this, okay? Actually, I am overthinking this for sure, as I think all Jays fans are. the truth of the matter is the Blue Jays made it to the playoffs. Now, the expectations that were on this team, not just from the city, but from like the baseball world, and we talked about this before, when it doesn't matter what sport, when a Toronto, actually it's baseball or basketball, because like the Leafs just, it's
Lost to the
pretty,
Habs in overtime tonight.
yeah, we're what, 1-4 now in preseason.
It's preseason.
We're gonna lose everything this year again. So anyway, that's a different conversation. But when in baseball and basketball, we have this like superiority complex with the states, right? And so when state sports writers are predicting that a Toronto sports team is going to be good, the hype here in the city just like explodes. Like, whoa, like ESPN said the Jays might win the World Series. Like, this is real life. And it's been just an insanely frustrating year, and it's been super weird. Well, sorry about that. Give me a sec. Well, that was weird. It's been a super weird year because the pitching staff has been the best pitching staff that Toronto has seen in a long time. Their
609,
bullpen is like any other bullpen. It has its moments of frustration, but they have been lights out. You have Swanson who can shut it down. You have Hicks who can shut it down. You have Cabrera who can shut it down. Like, they have really good bullpen arms. Of course, Romano, who I'm not concerned about his little blip here at the end of the year. He has some issues with his fingernail. I'm not too concerned about it. But this team, like, I don't know the actual numbers. I can't remember like looking up. I would go on record to say that their average with runners in scoring position has to be one of the top 5 worst averages in the last decade. Like, that could be me, just my negative brain, but I feel like every single game they left the bases loaded twice, like every night. And so, as much as I would like to tell you I'm picking the Jays, which I am, it's the most unconfident out of any of these picks. Now, this is the other thing that makes me nervous, and I want to ask you about this. It's a little bit twofold. And in the first part of this is not just with the Jays. This is baseball as a whole. And then the second one is with the Jays. So the first one is, this is the first playoff series, or I guess playoffs in general, that we're seeing the pitch clock.
Yeah.
And I'm interested because playoffs, and for the record, love hockey, love football, love basketball. I love baseball. If I had to rank them, baseball's probably 4th or 3rd. But I love baseball, but nothing beats baseball playoffs. Like, baseball playoffs is the best playoffs, hands down for me. Every pitch matters, and the intensity of every moment from the first pitch right to the last out is just heightened beyond belief. But now there's a pitch clock, and now you can only step off the mound.
The little pitch radio.
Right. Now you can only step off the mound a certain amount of times. If you're the batter, you can only step away from the plate a certain amount of times. You only have a certain amount of mound visits. The amount of time that you get to just take to yourself and take a breather and slow it down is extremely limited. And I'm really curious to see how that affects pitchers in general in the playoffs. Like, could we see the most runs scored in a playoffs in a long time, just for the sheer fact that there's no slowing it down now? Like, you're literally just every 30 seconds you're throwing a pitch. I'm interested.
It's gonna be fun. Yeah, I'm not loving the idea of Chris Bassett trying to figure out his pitch com thing.
No,
Uh,
no.
in a jam, but yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah,
Yeah. And
Alec Dirk
so
got a couple of days off. That's nice for him. He had not had a day off in all of September until Sunday.
yeah.
So
Is there any word on Danny Jansen, by the way? I haven't seen.
all I've seen is I don't think he's going to be on the roster for the wild card round.
Okay.
Last I checked.
Because they get him back, it's huge. They get him back,
Yeah,
that's
well,
huge.
it could be, right? It really could be.
Yeah.
You always worry about guys, especially guys who are like he's just a pure power hitter now, right? He's given up on this whole spray hitting thing.
Yeah.
If your hand's missed, I'm worried. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nature of being a fan of the Jays. Is I'm worried. Like
All the time.
that's Rays fan should get a Kevin Cash jersey. A Jays fan should just get a jersey that says I'm worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always. And it's interesting.
Concerned.
This just came to my mind. This wasn't my second point, but this came to my mind. As a Toronto sports fan, when the Boston Bruins lost to the Florida Panthers in the first round last year, we were over the moon.
Yeah.
Like, we're playing Florida, easy peasy, walk in the park. Turns out Florida was a phenomenal team and they went to the Stanley Cup final, but this feels way too familiar to be like, oh, good. Like, we got Minnesota. We don't have to play Tampa. It's like I've seen this movie before.
I don't feel like we had no chance against Tampa. It's what you talked about before. If the Jays come to play and they show up, they can beat anybody. It's baseball. Anybody who makes the playoffs can beat anybody,
Yeah.
especially 2 out of 3, but even in 4 out of 7, right? I'm just so tired of the Rays. I'm so tired. If the Jays are going to lose, I'm so glad it's not going to be at the Trop. I'm just so glad I don't have to watch that,
Yeah.
I don't have to look at that on TV. I mean, I'm still going to watch their series too, but maybe we lose them in the next round. I don't know, or maybe we beat them. That would be amazing. Let's go Texas. That's the main takeaway. Let's go Texas.
And that'll bring back a little rivalry, a little 2015-16 vibes, even though none of the same players are around at all. But that was
the
fun.
Manager was
that was fun. All right, so one last point before we shut her down for the night, or for the day, the morning. The other thing that concerns me, and this is what I was kind of prefacing before, that I might be overthinking this. I probably am overthinking this. Last year, the Jays are up 8-1.
Oh man!
And
do we have to do this?
We have to. We have to, man. Kevin Gausman was pitching.
Right. It was a dark day. It was a dark day.
It was Thanksgiving. I'll never forget it. Kevin Gausman was pitching. All right. He got pulled from that game because for some reason in the playoffs, managers overthink everything and they take the starters out after 4 or 5 innings, no matter what the situation is. Do you think that John Schneider has learned his lesson? And if your best pitcher is pitching a Cy Young caliber game in the playoffs and only has like 78 pitches or something, you leave him in the game? You think he's figured this out or no? Because I'm telling you, man,
this bummer note, but no, I absolutely don't think he's figured this out.
If Kevin Gausman is humming after 6 innings and he gets pulled because of the analytics, I'm gonna rip my head off. I agree that baseball is the most analytical sport, and it's crept into every sport. I also believe in the eye test, and that eye test, when it was 8-1, Kevin Gausman looked pretty good. And I honestly do concern about John Schneider's decisions. I do.
John Schneider makes the decisions that Ross Atkins told him
I understand
to make under those circumstances. And
I understand. I hope that he gets fired over keeping Kevin Gausman in a game. I hope
especially when you wind up winning the game.
So anyway, that's
one the
that's a
spreadsheets
big
can't
concern.
account for, right? It's not even the eye test. It's like there's a lot of defensive miscues that happened after that too, that probably don't happen with Gausman on the mound. The guys get tight when there's a pitcher they don't trust on the mound. They're going to be a little bit more tight.
And I know like
when
Springer,
Gauze is out there, they're
like,
going to feel real good because he's been there. He was their ace all year. He's now it's 2 years of him being their ace.
Yeah,
and he's awesome. And no, I don't think he's learned his lesson. I think the exact same thing plays out, but I think they win this time. I think.
All right.
Better bullpen.
So
that can't happen again.
No, it can't. Yeah. So I lied. One more question. Does the World Series winner, or is the World Series winner playing tomorrow? All 4 playoff series start tomorrow. Do you think that the World Series winner is playing tomorrow?
I do.
And
it'll be nice to see Bryce Harper win a ring.
Oh, I love it. Love it. I do think the most likely wild card team to win a World Series is Philly. I really do think the same thing. I just think when they're hot, man, I think the only thing for my own entertainment sake, although like Philly's a really fun team to watch, but I would love to see the Dodgers and the Braves matchup. I would love to see that. I think that would be fun. And I mean, we were robbed of that last year. But I agree with you.
Those fraudulent Padres.
That's right.
The Fraudres. San Diego Fraudres.
That's a whole other conversation to have this winter, man. Like Padres, Mets, like just these teams with gigantic payrolls that are just and the whole Shohei thing too, right? Like that's going to be fast. Anyway,
it's going to be good.
So much to talk about. Tom, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Night, Mark. Have a great morning, Mark. Enjoy your drive to work.
Yes, you too. Enjoy your breakfast. Absolutely. Yeah. To everybody else, thank you for listening to Sports Addict Live. We will see you next time. I got some football thoughts later on in the week, and I assume we'll be back. If not later in the week, next week, we'll talk some more baseball and we'll see where we're at. But until then, Tom, thanks as always. And to the rest of you, get hooked. See you next time.
I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard.